Good evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and the title for tonight's presentation is going to be Mild for Now, Then Colder. We really believe here at Spot On Weather that the conditions will be fairly mild the next 7 to 10 days, basically through the 6th of December, and then it's going to turn much colder and with a much greater chance of a winter-type pattern setting up. So let's get started right now. And what I'm going to show you mainly in the next set of slides is the 300 millibar temperature chart, or correction, 300 millibar winds on the left, and a 850 millibar 5,000 foot temperature chart on the right. So we're looking at the jet stream, the overall jet stream pattern denoted by these aqua colors. The higher wind speeds within the jet stream, known as jet maxes, are generally indicated by the yellow colors. Down here at the bottom of each slide, you have the wind speed in knots. So the brighter yellows are the stronger wind speeds at the jet stream level at 30,000 feet above our head. The jet stream is a very important upper river of air which tends to transport colder temperatures towards the equator and warmer temperatures basically from the equator towards the poles in the form of upper level ridges. All right, so first what we're going to take a look at is general orientation of the jet stream on the 6th, or actually on the 1st of December. We do have winds generally blowing from west to east across the continental United States as a whole. And whenever you have the winds blowing from west to east in this manner, you keep most of the coldest air, generally denoted by these purple shadings and pink shadings, well up to the north over the far northern latitudes of the continents. So we have more of a west to east wind flow pattern or jet stream at 30,000 feet, which is just going to transport mild Pacific air from coast to coast with really no Arctic cold intrusions into the United States as a whole. Moving forward now to the 2nd of December on the weekend coming up, first weekend of December, we do have a little bit of a troughing pattern out off of the Eastern Pacific, but overall, again, the pattern favors more of a west to east, fast-moving, weaker type weather systems that are going to transit through. Every once in a while here in Southeast Virginia, we'll expect more of a cold front to come pass through the area and just reinforce some slightly cooler air, but no major cold is anticipated. Looking again at the 850 millibar or 5,000 foot temperature chart, generally the coldest air remains well to the north, centered over northern Canada at this time on the 2nd. All right, and again, notice the zonal, when we say zonal jet stream with east to west trajectory winds, we're just generally saying a west to east wind component all the way across the United States as a whole. And again, you see the darker purple shadings and the maroon colors. This indicates where the temperatures are the coldest, and those temperatures remain coldest well north of the United States-Canadian border. Generally, we have some cool type conditions here. We're expecting temperatures across Southeast Virginia to range between 50s and 60s for highs over the next 7 to 10 days, really through the 6th of December, with the weather being very uneventful and no storm systems. Now, things start to get a little bit more interesting as we get into the 4th of December. The week of the 4th to the 8th of December is really when the changes start taking place. So on the 4th of December, the jet stream becomes more of a long wave trough, a deepening trough, indicated by this U-shaped pattern, generally extending from North Dakota down into the desert Southwest. All right, and then you got more of a ridge situated over the eastern United States, which is going to result in mild weather for us here in Southeast Virginia. But if you notice, though, how this is a trough, so the jet stream is starting to change from a west to east type configuration to more of a meridional or dips in the jet stream further south. This transports colder air from higher toward lower latitudes. And then you have these ridges that are downstream of the long wave trough over here in the Eastern U.S., and that results in the temperatures rising across the eastern United States. So this will really become a milder period for us here in Southeast Virginia by early next week. Here are the colder temperatures, still generally confined to Canada, but now they start to push, these purple shading starts pushing into the Dakotas next Monday. So now let's move it forward to Wednesday, the 6th of December, and now you see a very dramatic change. Okay, in the jet stream overall, we had more of a west to east configuration on Sunday the 3rd, and then by Wednesday the 6th, you get this huge ridge, this upper level ridge, which is starting to develop over Western Canada down along the east or the west coast of the United States, which is going to result in very mild, very warm temperatures and dry conditions out west. And then you get this deep trough that comes into the central United States, the Midwestern U.S., and then for our area here in Eastern Virginia, we're still fairly mild at this point. Our winds are mainly from the west-southwest. So the heart of the coldest air is really starting to plow into the plain states in the Midwest. And then here is the temperatures showing you how cold it is at 5,000 feet, -14 to -18 degrees Celsius. So it's really coming down now as this jet stream buckles, becomes more pronounced, more meridional over time by the 6th. And then the big Arctic outbreak really hits by the 7th of December, where you get this huge ridge of high pressure and a positive Pacific North American pattern, or PNA pattern, and a deep trough across the eastern United States. This is going to allow the transport of much colder air spilling basically from the Dakotas, anywhere east of the Mississippi, all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Okay, so this is where things are going to get real interesting and become more winter-like. And guess what? The teleconnections support the pattern change. We have mild now, but over time, what you're going to notice is the three main teleconnections that we are looking at: the North Atlantic Oscillation on the left, the Arctic Oscillation in the center, and the Pacific North American pattern on the right. If you notice again that these tick marks here, they generally indicate if your tick marks are above the central dark line here, that means you have a positive index. If they're below this dark main line here, it indicates a negative index. So over time, what we're expecting is a negative North Atlantic Oscillation. Okay. We're expecting a strongly negative Arctic Oscillation, but I mean strong. Okay. You can see how over time we had a little stretch of negative AO here in November, and then it's going to rise slightly to positive coming up here this week into early next week. And then it drops off significantly right here, possibly down to -4, a -4 on the scale. And then the Pacific North American pattern, generally what we have is it's been a negative quite a bit, but over time what we expect to happen is we do expect that to start becoming positive as well over here on the right, the positive index for the PNA. So what does that all favor? That all favors cold weather. And if you take a look back at our spot on weather video on Teleconnections, just that we posted a few weeks ago, that really shows it. And to support these thoughts, this is typical weather for a negative NAO on the left and a negative AO, Arctic Oscillation, on the right. Okay, and this is from the Mid-Atlantic Teleconnections website, MAD Teleconnections site, which is a really good site. You can basically take a look back at the weather, how the indices, the NAO, AO, PNA, there's also the EPO, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. You could take a look back at those indices to tell what type of weather we typically get. We're looking at temperatures here. So, and all the years are located here. These are temperatures for Decembers of the past. And whenever you have a negative North Atlantic Oscillation, you typically get a trough to develop over the Eastern U.S., which allows colder air to come down from Canada. Okay, so with this NAO becoming negative again, that's what we'd expect, colder than normal temperatures indicated on the scale on the bottom. On the right here, we have a negative Arctic Oscillation, again, below normal temperatures, as indicated by the bluish aqua colors over the eastern U.S. And with the NAO, or correction, the AO going fairly strong negative right here, we expect that to happen, below normal temperatures for Decembers. And then with a positive Pacific North American pattern, we generally have a ridge, big upper level ridge over the west and a trough in the east, which results in below normal temperatures again across the eastern United States in December. And this is a really good example right here of a positive Pacific North American pattern with the big ridge over the western U.S. and then the trough in the east. That's a positive PNA pattern. All right, so what we're expecting again is mild conditions the next 7 to 10 days, basically through the 6th of December, and then winter really sets in. Here's an example from the European ensemble system, what the temperatures are looking like. We just randomly chose Norfolk, Virginia. I believe these temperatures are a little bit too cool. They'll actually probably rise up into the 60s both tomorrow on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then a cool front will come through and kind of drop the temperatures off a little bit. Average high this time of year is about 59 degrees. So yeah, the temperatures are going to be in the 50s. And even there'll be some occasional days in the 60s with overnight lows mainly ranging in the mid to upper 40s. All right, and then you'll really notice this drop off though. After the 6th of December, high temperatures of 49 degrees and then dropping all the way down to a high of 45 by 11 December. This just shows you what we were just supporting with the charts and this Arctic air incursions and this deep trough developing across the eastern United States. So the long-range final thoughts tonight, okay, we have mild weather pattern in place for the next, basically from 28 November, next 7 to 10 days, 28 November to 6 December, as the jet stream meanders mainly west to east across the U.S. It's going to usher in Pacific air pretty much from coast to coast. We are not expecting any major East Coast storms over the next 10 days. Okay, so nothing major in the works, no major nor'easters coming up the coast, at least that's the way it looks right now. Big pattern change after 6 December with the polar front jet stream becoming more meridional, which is going to transport much colder Arctic air into the U.S. So you get into that holiday time of year, people are hanging up Christmas lights, people are having get-togethers. People are kind of in the mood for a little bit of cold weather to kind of set the mood and the tone for the season. You know, it's too early to tell whether we'll have some snow in the east at some point for the holiday coming up. Just something that we'll keep a close eye on here at Spot On Weather. The Arctic air will spread eastward, eventually reaching the East Coast around the 8th of December. All right, that's when it really strikes and gets over here to the East Coast. We're expecting below normal temperatures. Possible storm development is going to be off the East Coast between 8 and 12 December. Okay, so when we have that deep trough setting up, digging into the Eastern U.S., that is typically a lot of jet stream energy. That's usually the dynamics that allow for storm development off the East Coast. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's down the road a little bit. And again, as I mentioned, the Teleconnections support a return to the much colder weather pattern. As we looked at these, negative NAO, strongly negative AO, a positive PNA, and then the typical weather associated with that. December looks to be much colder for the eastern United States this year as compared to last. So I'll end it with that thought. Definitely looking colder. Enjoy the mild weather if you like the mild weather for the next 7 to 10 days because it's going to get much colder after that. All right, that wraps things up tonight. Spot On Weather. If we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great Monday evening, everyone.